All right, so get ready to power up because today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Dragon Ball.
Oh, Dragon Ball. Now you're speaking my language.
See, I knew you had a nerdy side, but we're actually looking at this article you shared, and it's about, I guess you could say, the darker side of Dragon Ball.
Okay, like what? What kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, it's interesting because it's in Spanish, so it got me thinking, like, about all these conversations about anime going on in different languages, different fandoms that we might not even know about.
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
especially with something as globally huge as Dragon Ball, right? Like, it makes you wonder what perspectives we might be missing.
Exactly. Like, we grew up with Goku and Vegeta, the whole epic saga, but this article wants us to kind of look past the Kamehamehas and the Spirit Bombs for a second.
To what's going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. The human cost of creating these worlds.
Yeah, it's easy to forget about that part, caught up in the action and everything.
Right. And speaking of creators, the article spends some time on the legacy of Akira Toriyama, like the mastermind behind it all.
Okay, and he's no longer with us, but the Dragon Ball universe is still going strong.
Exactly. So it brings up those questions of, like, where's the line between honoring his work and maybe exploiting it, especially with such a profitable franchise.
That's a tough one. It really is. On the one hand, you've got the potential to reach whole new generations of fans, but then there's that risk, right, of cheapening it somehow.
Right. Like, is every new Dragon Ball movie, every video game, is it really adding to the story, or are they just, I don't know, cashing in?
And then what does that say about how the industry views its creators?
It makes you think.
Speaking of creators, this actually reminds me of the article mentions Yoshihiro Togashi, too.
Oh, yeah. The genius behind Hunter x Hunter.
Have you seen that one?
Oh, yeah. I love Hunter x Hunter. It's such a trip.
It's amazing, and he's been really open about his health struggles, like chronic pain and the pressure to keep putting out content.
Which is huge in the anime and manga industry, right? This whole crunch culture thing.
Oh, it's brutal, and the article calls it out, how these creators are pushed to the limit physically and mentally to meet deadlines.
It's like they're almost sacrificing themselves for these stories.
And Togashi's case is heartbreaking, but it's not unique at all. The question is, are we as fans even aware of it? Like, how much of it is hidden behind the scenes?
It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of a new release without thinking about what it took to get there.
It really is, and the people pouring their heart and soul to making it happen.
And sometimes to their own detriment. It's like we want more and they deliver, but it makes you wonder what the cost is.
Yeah, and the article actually compares it to a factory.
A factory.
Yeah, like instead of churning out cars or whatever, it's these stories, these characters that we connect with.
Wow, that's a crazy thought. These creative people treated like machines.
And the article argues that this constant demand for more Dragon Ball, faster, it all just creates this system of exploitation.
And not just for creators working today, right?
Yeah.
They mentioned something about even after a creator is gone.
Exactly like with Toriyama being gone, but they're still making new Dragon Ball content.
Right. So is it possible to do that ethically? To continue someone's work after they're gone?
I mean, I think there are ways to do it right. Like if you have people who are really close to the original vision, working closely with the estate, being really careful about it.
But then there's the other side of the coin.
Where it's just a cash grab, slapping a familiar name on something without any real care for the source material.
And how do you even tell the difference sometimes?
Right. Who decides what's a genuine tribute and what's just exploitation? It's tricky. But the article's point is, are we as fans even thinking about these things? When we buy that new game, watch that new movie.
So it's not just about what the industry is doing, it's about us being a part of it.
Yeah, it's like with fast fashion, we love getting new clothes all the time, but we don't always see the human cost.
And this is like that, but with our entertainment.
Exactly. And just like with ethical consumption in other areas, the first step is awareness.
So being aware of where our anime and manga is coming from, and if what we're buying is actually supporting something harmful.
Right, it's not about boycotting everything, but maybe asking some questions, like, where did this come from? Who's actually profiting from this? Are the people who made it being treated fairly?
It's not always easy to find that information, though, is it? It's not like there are fair trade labels on manga.
True, but it is getting easier to support creators directly. Online platforms, conventions, independent publishers.
So we could actually be putting our money directly into the hands of the people making the stuff we love.
Exactly. And you might discover some amazing new artists and stories that way, too. You know, instead of just mindlessly consuming, maybe we need to be more mindful about our choices.
Mindful and maybe a little more patient.
Yeah, like, it's okay to wait for quality over quantity. And who knows if enough of us start valuing those well-crafted stories over just getting more, maybe that could actually make a difference in the long run.
So instead of just supporting the Dragon Ball machine, we should be looking for ways to support the people creating it. But how do we even begin to do that? It really is the big question, isn't it? How do we actually make a difference?
Well, the article had some ideas, like we can be pickier about what we buy, and who we're buying it from.
Instead of just grabbing whatever's on the shelf.
Right. Like, what if we actually sought out those independent artists, those smaller publishers?
And quote them directly.
Exactly. And it's not just about the money. It's about sending a message that you appreciate their work, that you want to see more of it. Plus, you find some really cool stuff that way, stuff you wouldn't see in mainstream stores.
Oh, absolutely. Like those indie manga anthologies you see at conventions, always a goldmine.
Right. And even when you are engaging with those big franchises, maybe take a minute, do a little digging.
Yeah.
See if you can find any info on working conditions, if the creators have talked about their experiences.
So it's like being an informed consumer, but for entertainment?
Yes. And don't underestimate the power of just talking about it here. The more we discuss this stuff, this ethical side of anime and manga, the more awareness it raises. And hopefully that leads to change down the line.
Yeah, it's like shining a light on these issues instead of just ignoring them.
Exactly. It's not about guilt-tripping anyone for loving anime and manga. It's about adding another dimension to that love, like how understanding the history and cultural context of a series can make you appreciate it even more.
So it's about being more engaged fans, not just passive viewers.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us start pushing for better treatment of the creators, of the people behind the art we love,
It could actually lead to better stories.
it's possible. When creators feel respected, valued, when they're given the space to do their best work without being burnt out, that's when the magic really happens.
It's like, instead of just clamoring for more Dragon Ball, maybe we should be asking, how can we support the next Toriyama? How do we create an industry where everyone can thrive?
Those are the questions we should be asking. And if this little deep dive has gotten you thinking about your own relationship with anime and manga, then I'd say that's a win.
It's definitely a conversation worth having, and one that needs to continue. So until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and most importantly, keep diving deep into those worlds you love.